Hey Deckers, Liam here. It's time for some fresh Steam Deck and gaming industry news, starting with the big one for the emulation scene, which is obviously quite popular on Steam Deck, because Dolphin, the Wii and GameCube emulator, was going to have a Steam release that they announced back in March that would have some special Steam features. Sadly though, the release is on hold indefinitely because Nintendo has blocked it. The story surrounding this was initially a bit confusing, and even the Dolphin blog post announcing this issue had a detail wrong about it originally. This was not a DMCA takedown as was originally reported, but according to their previous treasurer on Mastodon who's stepping down, the chat behind it was actually started by Valve. Valve actually reached out to Nintendo, and Nintendo were not happy about it, so Dolphin got a cease and desist, citing the DMCA anti-circumvention provisions. This is because Dolphin has for a very long time included certain keys to the kingdom that it shouldn't have. In a statement to Kotaku, a Nintendo rep actually stated how the emulator illegally circumvents Nintendo's protection measures and runs illegal copies of games. Using illegal emulators or illegal copies of games harms development and ultimately stifles innovation. Nintendo respects the intellectual property rights of other companies and in turn expects others to do the same. The good news though is that Nintendo only stopped the Steam release. Dolphin has not been hit anywhere else, so you can still go download it and use it as normal from other places like their website, GitHub, and it's still available directly on Steam Deck via the Discover software store in desktop mode, just like many other apps. So it's a shame, but it's not the end of the world. And while Valve reportedly started off that conversation, they kinda had to really, but it's a reminder that no matter how much you love Valve, they are a business and they have to do this kind of thing. Next up though, we do have some better news as the Steam Deck is going to be available in more retail stores. Komodo, Valve's partner, announced another expansion. This time they're moving into South Korea and it will be available with the docking station at all Electromart stores nationwide beginning June 1st. This is on top of Komodo already putting the Steam Deck into stores across Taiwan, Hong Kong and Japan. And in the press release, Komodo stated they're planning more promotions and events to make PC gaming more accessible to as many as possible. So I'm curious to know what they're planning here. It could be quite exciting. Now, as mentioned in previous news videos, one thing I am keen to keep on top of is how the Steam Deck is selling overall, especially now with the ROG Ally pre-orders being available, and we've seen the likes of Ayaneo and other handheld PC gaming vendors also start to bring out their newest units as well. Looking over Valve's own public sales info, we can see across May the Steam Deck globally has been flicking around the top 5. Going from 4th to 3rd to 5th, and the latest actually shows it back at 4th. So overall, it's still doing shockingly well in terms of sales by overall revenue. That's not by units sold, but you do have to remember it is going up against games that sell multiple hundreds of thousands and millions. So while the Steam Deck costs more based on the revenue, that's still Valve clearly shifting a lot of Steam Decks out to customers every week. And when you check Steam Database, the community site, just to quickly remove free-to-play titles, the Steam Deck is actually in 2nd place, up 1 place from the week before. So everywhere you look, with the number 1 being the Outlast Trials, which alone has sold now over 500,000 copies, that really puts things into perspective. So the Steam Deck has, by all measures there, moved upwards in terms of sales, even with the ROG Ally hype and pre-orders. The Steam Deck just doesn't seem to have been affected by it all yet. Valve also released 2 upgrades for Proton Experimental recently, so I'll run over the main highlights for you here, but as a reminder, not all updates are for Steam Deck specifically, since Proton is used on desktop Linux as well. For the update released on May 26th, Last Labyrinth, displaying only a black screen on Steam Deck, was fixed. They fixed up Creativerse not being able to connect to a local game with a VPN connection active. The Incredible Adventures of Van Helsing was not rendering text in Polish correctly, that was fixed. They fixed up a couple of Proton 8 regressions, like BeamNG Drive no longer crashing when a steering wheel is connected. Cafe Stella no longer crashes with 2 elements on the flowchart. Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered no longer ignores controller input, so that's working correctly again. Indiana Jones and the Emperor no longer crashes on the splash screen as well. They also fixed up Nosferatu, the Wrath of Malachi, looking dark and improved the performance, and they fixed up the DXVK HUD not showing the correct Git revision used for anyone messing about with that. And they also had a tiny update on May 29th that fixed up a recent experimental regression that caused DirectX 12 games not to work on Intel GPUs, so that's more for desktop. For fans of the Nintendo Switch emulator Yuzu, you'll be pleased to know it's had some good upgrades for the Steam Deck recently as well. In their early access release, available for their Patreon supporters, with all the changelogs taken from their Discord that I'm using here, Early Access Build 3604 gave us a tweaked garbage collector to be more aggressive in favour of Steam Deck. It now automatically detects the system time zone. It will automatically set the system time zone based on the desktop operating system. They've limited device access memory for integrated devices to 4 GB, and they've prevented VRAM usage from filling up on integrated devices like the Steam Deck. So all of that there will basically make games run better in Yuzu on Steam Deck. They also had a new Mainline public release recently as well, which included a number of enhancements, like improved performance for higher-end systems, a new recompression option, which can be good for systems with lower VRAM. This also had the fix to prevent VRAM filling up on devices like the Steam Deck, and they also improved the performance in Tears of the Kingdom, which was reported to help it on Steam Deck as well. So lots and lots of improvements for the Yuzu emulator there. Okay, now for some actual game news. The first is that Entropy 02, which is a free single-player story mod for Half-Life 2 that I briefly covered in a news video about the beta a while ago, has now released a big upgrade which brings with it the native Linux and Steam Deck support. This is one seriously not to be missed. It feels like a Valve game. They did such a great job on it, and it's really interesting to play and to see another potential side in the war in Half-Life 2, so don't miss that one. The next highlight is Stasis Bone Totem, a thrilling underwater adventure with some pretty cool visuals, and it's got classic point-and-click gameplay where you explore with 3 different characters. If you love your classic isometric adventures with a horror edge to it, this definitely looks like one you need to go and check out. Especially because the developers are fully supporting the Steam Deck with this new release, and in a Steam announcement, they made it clear they've put some real effort into it with their special gamepad interface to make it feel like a really good fit for the Steam Deck. A quick one here is Solasta Crown of the Magister, a turn-based tactical RPG based on the SRD 5.1 rule set. It originally released back in 2021, but it just had a massive content update. And in the patch notes, they stated clearly that it's now properly playable on the Steam Deck, so this could be another good one for you to go and check out. We also had the very popular Roots of Pasha. It's basically a Stone Age Stardew Valley, and it has now returned to Steam. When I last spoke about this, they had a fight with their publisher Crytevo that resulted in the Steam page being removed completely, but they've now split with Crytevo to go it alone, and so it has returned to Steam. And it now comes along with native Linux support to make it even better on the Steam Deck. So it's really nice to see a good resolution there, and it's definitely one you need to take a look at. It's a really sweet game. Finally, did you see that Sony announced a new handheld? Unfortunately, it's not like a Vita 2. I can't help but laugh at this as well. They've basically cut the DualSense controller in half and welded a screen to the middle of it. It looks absolutely ridiculous, and it's only for streaming games from a PS5 if you have one. I don't get what they were thinking here. It just seems so pointless. And it will no doubt be more expensive than it needs to be. What were they thinking? But that's it for today. Do please give the video a like, hit the subscribe button and comment to let me know your feelings on all the topics here. Help out your friendly neighborhood Steam Deck news source. I'll be sticking around for years to come, so stay with me for all the latest, and I'll see you later.